Now, Japan may be losing control of the Fukushima nuclear power plant after a rise in radiation levels meant attempts to stabilise the situation had to be halted. Well, the government's top spokesman said one of the key reactor's containment vessels is feared to have broken and radioactive material leaked out. Arina Galushka is in Tokyo for us.
This morning, fire broke out at the fourth reactor at the Fukushima plant. It was extinguished, was seemingly on its own about half an hour later. However, out of the 800 workers which were originally at the plant, 50 remains, and they were pulled out earlier today because of the radiation levels, which again were too high. You also have to keep in mind that the third reactor is also posing some danger. Its containment vessel broke and gave a crack, as actually did the containment vessel of the first reactor. We do know that radiation levels are skyrocketing all across the country. In fact, a town just a little over 100 miles north of Tokyo, radiation levels exceeded 300 times the normal amount. We also know that radiation levels in Tokyo, measured by those who were arriving at the airport just this morning, they were about 11 times the amount that is considered to be normal or safe.
What's the situation like where you are? Is there panic in Tokyo, the capital?
Well, no, I wouldn't say that people are running around screaming in horror at the moment, but you have to notice a certain eerie quietness in the air. There is not that many people out on the streets. Those who are on the street are wearing masks and they have their hair covered, which is some of the elementary precautions which are said to be somewhat helpful in the case of radiation exposure. Some food has been wiped off the shelves. If you go to any convenience store, you will see that most of them are essentially mostly empty. People are being told by the government that the current radiation levels are at an acceptable rate, that they do not pose any danger to health. However, as evidence shows, as history shows, the Japanese government hasn't exactly proven to be always trustworthy, and everything that it does say or put forth to the public should actually be checked thoroughly. Here's a report on that.
With reactors at the Fukushima nuclear power plant having gone up in smoke, fears about a possible meltdown loom large. Japanese authorities give assurances there is no imminent threat to Tokyo residents, but past evidence suggests they're not to be trusted completely.
Over many years, the nuclear industry and the regulators in Japan, but also in every society, every country that operates nuclear power, you find consistently that there's a lack of transparency, a lack of openness. Maybe they just think, I think arrogantly, that that's too much information. Why should we provide that information? So I think the situation in Japan is absolutely critical.
In fact, just 5 years ago, the plant's operator, Tokyo Electric Power Company, or TEPCO, admitted to falsifying temperature readings for cooling materials at Fukushima as early as in 1985. And with the country now facing a major disaster, the government will be careful in choosing its words.
I think one thing that's going to happen here, though, is that the Japanese government is not only accountable, of course, to the people that they're trying to take care of, but also they're accountable to other countries and other nations that are involved in this response.
In 2002, the government disclosed that at least 29 cases of damage to the reactor had been swept under the carpet. That incident led TEPCO's president and some senior officials to quit in scandal. In 2003, 17 TEPCO-operated plants were ordered to be shut down, again because the operator lied about what was happening at these sites. So, when the Japanese officials put on a somber face but give assurances everything's fine, not everyone's convinced, particularly when the country's already got enough other problems to deal with.
If you don't have the emergency resources, if your infrastructure has been destroyed, and the further you go away from the reactor, the more difficult, the more diverse the population settlements are, the more difficult it is to evacuate. You don't want to panic the public to get them to self-evacuate and maybe unwittingly put themselves in harm's way.
But when thousands of lives are on the line, such a policy can easily be counterproductive.
There's a growing distress among people in Japan that the information that we're receiving is not informing us to the extent that we would like it to. And that doesn't reduce panic. It just makes people all the more uncertain when they believe they can't trust fully the information they're being given.
As it stands, Japan appears to be balancing on the brink of a nuclear meltdown. And though the official version of the events implores everyone to stay calm, history shows not all their words could be taken at face value. In Tokyo, Irina Galushko, RT.